Alright. Connection is weak.
Alright, and we're live.
And we're live. We're going to give a couple 30 seconds to a minute to make sure that we get frame up. Thanks for everybody telling us we were sideways last time. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the first episode of Dr. D Discussions with my co-host Nate.
What's up?
We're going to give us a little background about each other. Nate over here is a marketing guy. He's got his BS in marketing and a MS in marketing as well.
Master of Science in Marketing, yup.
He's a master.
Online PPC and marketing stuff, and I'm helping Dave out today. He really wants to talk and have a good time, so we're just going to kind of go through our agenda and try and answer some comments as we get them.
Yeah, so we're going to keep it real nice and light. Give you a little background on I'm a physical anthropologist in undergrad training, so I have a BA in physical anthropology, a MS in cell and developmental biology from Thomas Jefferson University, and I'm currently working on my PhD in genetics, genomics, and cancer biology.
It's a lot of stuff, Dave.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, man.
Yeah.
So it's going. The first month was nice and light, I guess, if you will, but the worst test of my life was this past Friday, and I know anybody who's in my class watching right now knows exactly how horrible our brains hurt.
So why did you get into this type of science?
So I, in undergrad, loved evolution. So I read a book called Evo Devo, The Science of Evolutionary Developmental Biology, and I knew ever since then I would love to get into either medicine or get into research, clinical research, anything along those lines.
Okay.
And it took a few years off between undergraduate and graduate, and worked on my master's degree, did some research in prostate cancer in Dr. Lucia Linguino's lab at Thomas Jefferson, and now I really want to go gung-ho into getting my PhD to either teach or to go into a pharmaceutical company, eventually do clinical trials, or just do academia. Like, I have no problem with just sitting around at a bench and doing basic science.
Practice.
Yeah, so, get my presentation skills down a little bit. I know I'm a little rusty, so you guys are going to have to forgive me on that. But, I'm going to talk to you about some science in this episode, and the science behind the UK man that was cured of HIV. And, really, we're going to go into a lighter discussion at the end where, me and Nate went to K through 12 Catholic school, so we're going to talk about religion and ideology and society as a nice little wrap-up, maybe about 10 minutes at the end of our segment here today.
And we have a bunch of sources that we're going to post in the video when we're done as well, so we're definitely going to reference those as we go. Feel free to check those out. And I definitely don't know as much as Dave at all, but I'm going to be relying on him to just, as manager, break it down as best as he can.
Yeah, so Nate's going to be kind of like my rope to pull me back in when I get a little too jargony, or if I don't explain something up to par for you guys.
Because I definitely won't be able to know.
Also, Nate is going to have his phone with him, and we're going to be also taking some questions as we go through. Hey everybody, I see you guys saying hi, thank you. So if you guys have any questions while we're going at it, please feel free to pop it on. Nate will be my guy. So today, we're going to go through just some talking points. I'm going to discuss what HIV really is and what type of virus it actually is and how it infects T cells, your immune system.
And Dave, what are T cells and why are they important?
T cells are what's called your cellular mediated immunity. So you have certain types of cells called mast cells, where I know that you have allergies, so those are your worst enemy.
Yeah.
Basophils and different things like that, natural killer cells, macrophages, that don't necessarily target a specific type of disease or bacteria, but they are like your general gatekeepers. They're like your bouncers at a nightclub, where they're like, no, you can't get in, no, you can't get in. And, the guys on the inside, the cellular mediated, like your T cells and your B cells, are more of like your guys inside the club that are going, that guy's being a little creepy, we should get him out, So they'll go up, they'll target him specifically, and kick him out. So that's kind of where, the analogy is for what the immune system is. We'll talk about the stages of HIV infection, whether it's the acute process, the latent chronic infection, and then full-blown AIDS. There is a distinct difference between HIV and AIDS. You can have HIV, but not have AIDS, technically. We'll go into details about what a lytic form of the virus is and what a latent form of the virus is. And then we're going to go into specifically the treatment that, we're all I'm pretty curious
and
about.
where this is available, and what applications this could mean for the future, and hopefully, hopefully some more stuff like that too.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'll break that down in as best I can. I'm not a virologist. I'm not a clinician just as of yet in terms of research, but I'll try to break it down as simply as possible. And we'll answer the big question in the room. Is he actually cured? Is he just in remission?
Yeah.
Is he going to ever have the virus again? Is he going to be able to detect it in blood work? When you go to the doctor, you get blood work taken and you see, oh, well, I have it or I don't have it. So we'll go into it.
All right, word. So Dave, tell me the background of this study. Like, where is it going on?
So the background of the study is in the United Kingdom. It's done by 5 university hospitals. Of them is Cambridge, Oxford, and 3 other major universities in the United Kingdom. The study in particular looked at 50 different patients, but the most prevalent one was the man that was cured. And it's a 3-pronged attack, basically, on the virus that infects these T cells. It's basic retrovirals that you take orally. That we all know Magic Johnson. He's been taking retrovirals since the early '90s, and
So it's just like a pill that you would take.
It's a series of pills.
Sure.
So you will go through a cycle for however long the treatment period is, and then after the end of that cycle, you'll go on to other retrovirals, and then after that, you'll mix them up and mix and mash so that the virus never is fully able to adapt to the treatment.
Okay.
Now, eventually...
So it's like when you get like a flu shot every year.
Yeah, in a manner of speaking.
Okay.
So, it's kind of like when you go game to game. So, look at a football game. You're going to have a different strategy for the Eagles rather than the Cowboys or the Redskins or the Giants.
Sure.
And, you don't want to go in with the same game plan week to week. So, think of the cycles as, I'm going to attack Carson Wentz, or I'm going to attack Eli Manning a certain way. And they're going to look at the different weaknesses and really pinpoint based upon that so that they can never really truly adapt.
Sure.
And that's kind of where the retroviral treatments are at now.
Okay, cool. So that's one part of the 3-pronged strategy, right?
Yep. And actually, the second part is actually the most fascinating to me because it's dual infection. So they'll actually use a different virus to infect these T cells, or the actual person, not the T cells, sorry, forgive me. They'll actually give them a different type of virus, a lentivirus that's similar to HIV but doesn't have the actual veracity that the HIV virus has. It won't actually cause a long-term infection, won't actually hurt your immune system. And actually what it does is, it's kind of like saying, we're going to infect you with a little bit of virus, like in a vaccine. So we're going to get you a dead vaccine or a dead virus, and your body's going to go, oh, wow, this is something that it shouldn't be here. We're going to buff up our army.
So what type of side effects are we talking about?
In terms of the virus, very minimal, because it's usually a dead to a, not necessarily dead, but not necessarily a virulent virus. So you'll have kind of like common cold symptoms from it, but at the same token, it will actually boost up all of your immune cells to make a bigger army to actually go after the primary infection of HIV.
Okay.
So think of it as, you're bringing in the B team or the B squad to help out the A squad to take out, the arch enemy.
Yeah.
So
I got you.
And honestly, the third one is called vorinostat, and this it's called an HDAC-I, or a histone deacetylase inhibitor. So basically what that does is it unravels DNA so that when the virus is actually embedded in the DNA, it opens it up for attack, or it opens it up for expression. So basically what I mean by that is when a virus comes into a cell, it incorporates its genetic sequence into the DNA and becomes latent. We'll come back to that point real quick.
It's kind of like hiding that.
It's hiding. Like,
Sure.
kind of think like Viet Cong in Vietnam in the brush. It's there. They're multiplying. You can't see them, but they're there.
Okay.
And what it does is it actually expresses these guys to pop up like a little flag and go, "Hey, we're here." Like right here, it's basically like targeting. And the rest of your T cells can come in because they're all beefed up and attack those cells that were laying dormant.
Bringing this back up.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go in a little bit more detail about what is HIV. Like, What type of virus is it? It's a lentivirus.
Also, what stage was the guy who was?
He was in a latent
cured?
chronic infection, so we'll get to that.
Okay, my bad.
So let's go through the talking points a little bit in more detail about what the virus is, and we'll build up from there. So typical viruses have DNA as their genetic component, surrounded by a protein capsule. I'll give you a little guy figure here. And we'll make the little black stuff DNA right there. So you have your protein coat and your DNA right inside. And basically what happens is it'll come up to a cell and it'll spit that DNA right into it. Boom, just like that. However, with HIV, it's a retrovirus. So instead of using black, it'll use purple. And basically what I mean to signify by the difference of that is that it holds its genetic code in RNA, which is a much less stable form of genetic transfer, genetic information storage.
Referring to RNA, right?
Referring to RNA as compared to DNA. And there's a few reasons for that. It actually comes down to the chemical structure. RNA actually stands for ribonucleic acid, and DNA actually stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. So by having that, yeah, it is a very survivable virus these days, but you definitely want to try to cure it, don't you? But basically what it does is it sends in the RNA to the cell, and it uses the cell's own machinery to go from RNA down to DNA. Okay? Right there. Okay? And then that little black squiggly line will be incorporated into the cellular DNA. And that's where we get latent infection. So when everybody thinks of viruses, you always think, oh wow, it's going to go into the cell and it's going to burst it and it's going to make it go boom and pop. So let's make a nice little cell. And we'll make a nice little DNA in the middle. Okay? In the nucleus. So basically it's hiding out in there, you know, and as these cells grow and multiply and multiply and multiply out and multiply out and multiply out and multiply out and multiply out, you'll have many, many, many cells that have the virus in it, and your body won't be able to detect it.
Because they're all hidden.
They're all hidden.
Yep.
Think still in the brush. They're still in the little scruff of the grass. So when you go to a lytic stage, think lice or pop. Okay?
Active.
Yep.
Sure.
So the lytic stage will actually incorporate the DNA and actually be encoded into proteins. So DNA back to RNA to proteins. And at this point in time, you'll have many little virus particles inside the cell. And those guys are just itching to bust out. Thanks, Jason. I wish we could give everybody Chuck Norris's blood. And those will explode, and then you'll have virus outside of the cell. And those little guys will then go to other cells and infect them, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. So think of it as those little guys in the brush taking over the next field, and then the next field, and then the next city, the next town. And eventually, your immune system has been so compromised because it's getting all these people to defect over to their side, and you don't have anything to fight off any more armies again. So that's the difference between lytic and latent. So let's go a little bit into detail about how it infects a cell. So we'll have a nice little guy. He's got this little arm here off the top, and the virus particle will go fit right in, just like that. Nice little locking key. The DNA will be incorporated into the cell, and we'll get latency. Boom. And then multiplication, multiplication, multiplication out, and you'll have a full-blown infection of HIV.
So who was the guy that first hypothesized this? What is part of a team? You said this was in the UK, right? So
this particular study was in the UK, and it actually was based upon another study from 2005, I believe, where a Mr. Brown from the United States actually went to Germany and got a full bone marrow transplant and used the retrovirals as a dual targeted effect. So they came up with this new idea because dual infection is actually used in bladder cancer, non-muscular invasive bladder cancer. So they'll actually pump a catheter up into the bladder, sorry for that image, and they'll have bacteria inside of it, and it'll actually boost the immune system to fight off the cancer as well. So they thought, hell, why don't we try this for HIV?
Sure.
You know?
And this was published, what, last year?
Bladder cancer was 2006 to 2008.
Okay.
This in particular, using the dual infection of the virus, was published this year and last year. And previously, in cancer and in virology, they're using HDAC inhibitors, so histone deacetylases. Basically what that does is it takes off acetyls, and it will open up the DNA for transcription. And you wanted to use this verinostat to open up the DNA so that the virus can be expressed and the proteins can come up. So this infection will actually be told to go, oh hey, we're here. It puts up a little flag. So this verinostat actually makes the cell go, hey, I'm over here, look at me. And basically say to the rest of your army that you built up with the dual infection,
I do hope the diagrams are helping, by the way.
to come in and attack. So you'll have your infected cell surrounded by other T cells that have been turned on, so to speak. So basically think of it as in type of, yeah, actually that is why they put tuberculosis in your uncle's bladder. That's actually true. In particular, the army of built-up virus.
Why would they put tuberculosis in someone's bladder?
That's a completely different topic. We'll touch onto that. It's basically to enhance the immune system to actually target the cancer that's in the bladder.
Okay.
So it's
good, yeah.
It's actually a pretty cool strategy in terms of, hey, you know, we can't really fight this. We can't actually hit it with chemo or radiation. We'll actually use the body's natural defenses to eat it out.
Cool.
So
It's a great question.
So basically, going back to this diagram where you've already got, from the dual infection, you built up your army. You surrounded it by giving you regular retrovirals so the cell can't lyse and burst, but using the verinostat, you make a flag. And it's basically saying, hey, we're over here, the enemy's here, come and get us. So it's basically using a three-prong attack where the retrovirals build a dam around the field that you know that the enemy is in, hiding in the brush. Then you build up your army on the outside of the field, and then you mark it with this veracinib with a nice little flag, and your cells can come in and just wipe it out. Boom. And that's
Sounds cool. Yeah.
So it's in the latent chronic infection stage of AIDS. So HIV starts out as just a
Give us
nice,
like a timeline too, so like in terms of how far into this was he?
He's about a decade or so into his infection.
Yeah.
So you can live for 20 to 30 years using just standard retrovirals. So let me just give you a nice little graph. It's going to be time at the bottom and the amount of infection. So we'll just say INF, and then we'll use a nice little, so you'll have an infection, your acute stage, you'll have a latent chronic stage, and then you'll build up, and you'll have your full-blown AIDS stage. So, So you'll start off right here. You'll have an acute infection. This is blood work, so you're going to have a huge increase in the amount of viral particles that are in the bloodstream. And then your body's going to go, oh, we can fight it off, we can fight it off, we can fight it off. The virus will lay dormant and multiply and multiply and multiply and multiply until it gets to the tipping point right around here, and then it explodes. So basically going from that latent to lytic cycle, and right before that is when they did this particular man's treatment.
Nice.
So they wanted to make sure that he didn't have full-blown AIDS, because at that point in time,
It's just too late.
it's too late, because you can't actually build up the immune system anymore. You can't have cellular mediated a response to a particular
So
virus.
this was only in one case, right?
So this is one case out of 50, but however, the other 50 did show significant improvement in their blood work as well.
But they weren't just...
They weren't fully cured of the disease. So when I say cured in this particular case, what I mean by that is it's not necessarily completely wiped out. So let's go back to a nice little diagram where you have, let's just say 6. 6, and we'll say that's 6,000 of your cells, okay? So basically, in your blood work, if you have all 6 expressing the virus, it's going to be a high load. It's just, that's what it's called. It's a high load of infection. High load. So if you want to get rid of that, and they do this 3-prong attack to make it exposed and make other T cells that aren't infected, you might have just 1 out of the 6, and I know it's usually 1 out of 6,000 or greater amount of T cells that are infected. You actually don't even show the fact that you have the virus anymore. So in a manner of speaking, he's not infectious to other people unless he cuts himself open, cuts you open, and just pours blood right from one to another, maybe a transfusion, if you will. And remember, HIV is killed by air. So anytime you see blood, don't go up to it and lick it, but it's not necessarily going to get you infected.
So he's cured in the sense that he won't have any ill effects, but he will always have to like not bleed on people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it's a cure in the manner of speaking that you don't have any outward symptoms. You know, you've limited the amount of viral particles in the bloodstream so that it's undetectable. And it makes a lot of people go, you know, okay, he's cured. You know, he doesn't have it in his bloodstream. However, you know, he could eventually, you know, if he becomes immunocompromised by some other type of disease, maybe herpes virus or human papilloma virus or another type of immunocompromising disease, he can actually have a flare-up back up of the HIV virus. It's very, very, very near impossible to make sure that you test every single white cell in the body. So, in a manner of speaking, is he cured? Yes, but in a manner of speaking, he's not necessarily cured of the disease. It's not like he got a infection of gonorrhea, took some penicillin, and completely wiped everything out. So even in that state, you know, you only beat back the bacteria to the point where your immune system comes in and makes it later.
So what are like the next steps for this? Is it still in clinical testing?
So it's still in clinical trials. It's specifically for high-risk patients who are starting to not respond to retrovirals. It's also for people that, for lack of a better phrase, have the money to fight it off. You know, and I know I'm going to quote South Park here, but you know, if you have enough money, look at Magic Johnson. You know, he's 30 years, almost 40 years with the virus.
And this is not available in the U.S. at all.
There's going to be some trials going on in the United States. However, they're very limited in scope and in size because funding in the terms of the United States has shifted more towards cancer because the latent infection or the prolonged lifespan based upon these drugs that we're giving to patients as of right now are so very very effective that there's no funding for necessarily trying to cure the disease.
Sure.
In terms of European studies, they're also looking at bone marrow transplants, completely pulling out all the bone marrow out of somebody, which is take a needle about that thick and shove it into somebody's pelvis and femur, which, I don't want that.
And you can't go under for that, right?
And you have to stay away for that.
Pretty terrible.
And basically what they do is they pull all that bone marrow out, and they either expose it to DNA rewriting, genetic manipulation, or they'll actually use another virus or HIV and actually try to induce more white blood cells that are immune to it. And actually, the man that I quoted at the beginning of the show, Brown, was actually given a bone marrow transplant from somebody that was actually immune to HIV. So there are people in our general population that are immune to the virus, as it stands right now. So it's a multi-pronged attack. I think that because of how quickly, given the fact that it's an RNA-based virus, and they turn over quicker. So think of like, you know how we can't find a cure for the common cold?
Yeah.
Think of that, but like steroids.
Okay.
So there's super AIDS, not so super AIDS. There's different levels of infective type of AIDS, or HIV rather. Sorry, forgive me. So it goes to the fact that it's such a fast-changing virus that normal treatments, the retrovirals, can't keep up with it. So this three-pronged multiple attack coming at it from all different angles might be the future of medicine for HIV.
Actually, yeah. So what are your thoughts on this long term? Do you think this is something that can work? I mean, 1 out of 50 doesn't sound like those are great odds, though.
So basically, they didn't do the entire full-pronged attack on the other ones because
Okay.
they weren't compatible or they weren't necessarily at the stage at which they knew that they could get the response.
Okay, so they didn't have the same exact scenario.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this particular person responded very well to this type of treatment, so it could actually be a avenue for certain people. So that goes back to specified medicine.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at types of cancers, like lung cancer has EGFR mutants, it has ABL mutants, it has different types. So you'll take a biopsy and figure out what type of cancer you have, and it'll give you specific drugs for that particular type of cancer.
Sure, personalized healthcare.
Personalized healthcare, exactly.
Yeah.
So we can also look at bone marrow transplants from immune subjects and give them to infected subjects. And I actually think prophylaxis, preventing infection before it actually is incurred, or
Sure.
it actually occurs on somebody, by giving people antiretrovirals that are at high-risk populations.
What would antiretroviral be?
It basically it's the same treatment that you actually give people with HIV.
Okay.
So I don't know the exact drug names off the top of my head. Forgive me on that. I'm not a pharmacologist.
Just another oral type of
But
medication.
it would just be an oral medication that you take in, a daily type of medication where it
Basically,
has very...
anything sounds better than getting a bone marrow transplant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in terms of I know a particular man in the gay community here in Philadelphia who takes prophylaxis in terms of HIV retrovirals that will help prevent actual infection. And I really think that if you spread the word about that particular type of prophylaxis, not necessarily just saying here's a condom, here's this, don't
Sure.
abstain from sex, because we're as much as we like
It's
to
not
think
really
we're
realistic,
not
yeah.
necessarily animals. We're a species of animal. Like our DNA is programmed to reproduce and procreate. So, treating HIV keys. Honestly, Jason, I don't know the actual amount for treating HIV. I know that it's around $1,000 plus per month. So think about $12,000 annually saved from the economy. So instead of paying to Big Pharma for this, you could do one fell swoop, and then you're clear for 10 years, 20 years.
So you would directly pay this actual medical group that would do this. You would
Yes.
pay like pharmaceutical company.
Eventually, as soon as it gets through clinical trials. So it wouldn't necessarily just be one particular Big Pharma group that's doing all the treatments. Obviously, Verinestat's a particular drug, so that company would make buku bucks.
Shitload
But
of cash.
at the same time, I'd rather just give one drug, another virus that doesn't cost pennies on the dollar compared to retroviral drugs, and as well as the retrovirals for a little bit to knock out the infection as much as possible down to a lower level.
Nice.
So in the theory, you're going to
Yeah.
be saving money in the long run.
Sure.
So instead of pumping all that money to retrovirals and, it's toxic eventually. You're taking in pills. Chemo, that's toxic. After a while, your body can't handle it anymore. So, or drinking. Think about if you drank a fifth of vodka every day, it's going to damage your liver eventually. Your body's not going to be able to recover from it. So it comes down to, scope. If we think long term, it's going to save us a lot of money. So it's just another step in the right direction.
Cool. All right. Nice, bro.
All right.
I think that was the last question that we had on that. Let's do a double check real quick.
Okay.
Appreciate everyone commenting and liking, for sure.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. We're going to take about a 20-second little recess. I need to get some water and use the bathroom a little bit. So we'll be right back.
right. So definitely feel free to participate in the second part, guys. This will be a little bit more back and forth. Dave definitely has way more knowledge than me when it comes to the medical side of this part.
Alright guys, I'm back.
Alright, work.
Alright, did you need a little rest?
No, I'm good, man. Yeah, so let's move into the second part you wanted to talk about, right?
Alright, yeah, I'm going to let Nate lead the discussion a little bit more in this one because it's a less formal just discussion about ideology, ideologues, and religion in our modern day society. And
yeah, well, I think it really comes down to, you know, when you look at how this country was founded, separation of church and state, it's right there. But there's a lot of people that, you know, they tie it really closely to everything that they believe in. And it's really funny that, you know, I mean, we can say this because we went to Catholic school. There's a lot of Christian Catholic people that say they're like super religious, and they basically hate everyone else.
Yeah.
It's very hypocritical.
And I think that stems back for, you know, the evolution of religion, in my opinion, is that, you know, when we were separated by massive distances in terms of, you know, the Canaanites were in this area,
Yep.
the Hebrews were in this area, the Egyptians were in this area, the Hittites were in this area, and it was a means to educate people about the natural world around them in the best way that humans at the time could explain it. But at the same token, they had rules about how to reproduce. They had rules about how to wage war. They had rules about how to eat.
Basic rules about how to act in a large group of people so that everyone gets along and people don't just start killing each other for no reason. Like, don't, I don't know, try to bang that guy's wife. Don't try and steal his stuff.
Yep.
You know, don't try and covet other things that he owns. You know, basically, you know, act nice and you'll also be acted upon nicely. So, yeah, dude, I mean, it's crazy.
And I agree 100% with that. And that it helps societies work back then. But at the same token, it helps societies wage war against other societies. So that's the concept of the other, in my opinion. Where, you know, nowadays, people use the concept of other to discriminate against Mexicans, gay and lesbian, transgender, any type of brown skin, you know, this person. Islamophobia is rampant in this country because, you know, in the 1950s, we turned from a pocket isolated type of, you know, religious group of people where I believe, you know, we had religion throughout our society and it was a really Christian-based, you know, type of reasoning and Protestant basically, rather than Catholic, because, you know, we had...
Well, dude, I mean, you know, you also got to think about it, the Red Scare, right?
Yeah.
1948, right? It was all, this is all in the 50s when this whole Go Behind America and this whole... And you know, white picket fence
Pledge
and
of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance, right? Start
Incorporating
writing new songs and writing new words in the songs. You know, not one really likes to think about either.
Yeah, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Except if you're woman, black, brown, Islam, this, that. And, you know, we can list. But I really think that, you know, the evolution of religion comes back towards how, when we were really basic and had the Egyptians and the Hebrews and different things like that, where, you know, we were polytheistic. There was no monotheism up until, you know, the Jews, or, you know, the Hebrews, the Hebrew people, and, you know, the sun god Ra.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a coup in Egypt, in the Egyptian Empire, because a particular pharaoh loved the god Ra so much and thought that he explained everything, that he was the benefactor of all the other gods.
So give us like a historical range here. We're talking like 4 to 700 BCE?
2000.
That's what we call it, right? BCE now?
Yeah, BCE, before Common Era or whatever it is now. So I think it was right around 3000 to 2000 to 1500 BCE, where we went from polytheistic, where you had, you know, not just Ra, you had ISIS and, you know, ISIS, you know, right? You know, now we have ISIS now, right? But, you know, it evolved because, you know, we needed something to explain every little nuanced thing in the world. So we needed something to explain the stars. We needed something to explain the moon. We needed something to explain the sun. We needed to explain the goddess of the harvest, and the river god, and the mountain god, and this god, and that god. And then eventually we started to go, oh, so the river flows downhill and, you know, the snow melts and, you know, you get a flood here and then, oh, wow, okay. So that's probably just Ra that's doing all this. Because,
Yeah, because you can explain it, and it probably gives you comfort. It's also probably helps you control the people around you, right?
Exactly.
I mean, not in the sense of like anything evil, but it could be evil, it could be good. You know, maybe you actually believe in this God and you actually want it to go well. So you're like, hey, I'm trying to share the word. I really want you guys to pay attention to what I'm saying because it's this or we die.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or we die.
And you know, it's a unification, like we had said previously. And I don't want to say that it's. Yeah, screw it, I'm going to say it. It's the opiate of the masses, in my opinion. Now, obviously, you can disagree, and that's fully... It's why we live in a plutocratic society.
It's also why we're doing this.
Exactly, so we can open up discussion. And my whole thing is, I looked this up, and you'll see the sources when we post them at the end, is that there's over 4,200 different religions around the world.
Including Jedi.
Including Jedi, because that's a thing in Australia.
Yes, it is.
They actually put out a memo. Did you know about this for their new census?
Really?
To actually not put Jedi down.
Like that.
I swear, because
because too many people. Well,
and that actually changes up how the government actually deals with demographics in terms of like
benefits.
I mean,
you could also have
Scientology
is a religion in the United States.
Well, it is a religion, and actually they have. If you ever get a chance, go on Netflix and look at that particular. Documentary about Scientology. Awful. Scared the pants off me. Yeah. Don't want to screw with those guys.
We got a comment from Christian.
Plato cites a noble lie as necessary to harmony of the state. And I guess, but at the same token, why do we need to have a higher power or a higher figure or a lie, in Plato's case, as he calls it, dictate morality?
And I would also... Go ahead, finish.
Dictate morality rather than actually looking at, the rule of law. Signing of the Magna Carta, it instituted the rule of law in Anglo-Saxon tradition. So we've always held that up really high, especially, in our society. And I think that's actually being corrupted, as Nate alluded to, since the Red Scare, by religion. And I honestly believe that, by having more theocracy come in rather than democracy and have rule of law where you have an openness, a discussion, is really going to be the downfall of particularly our society.
What was that woman's name in Kentucky who wouldn't get gay people married?
Oh, what was her
Davis
name?
woman, right?
Yeah, Kim Davis.
Okay, so basically, the biggest thing for me is when it comes to that is that you're basically telling a United States citizen, right? A United States citizen who pays taxes, who should have all equal protection under the law, that you're not going to give them equal protection under the law because it doesn't make you feel good.
Yeah.
Not hurting anyone else, just doesn't make you feel good.
Yeah, and do you really want to live in a society that is like, I don't know, Iran?
No?
Iran, excuse me, I'm mispronouncing. Iran is a theocracy. It's a theocracy that's run by a dictator, the Ayatollah, and whatever decree that he makes is the word of God. So it's basically like how the Pope ran stuff in the Dark Ages, where...
Oh, dude, you only got to look at the Crusades.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the biggest waste of life for theocracy ever.
Yeah,
right?
And what's funny? The Jewish people in Palestine actually fought alongside the Islamic side against the Christians.
They were defending the geographical homeland against the invaders. That would make sense.
Yeah. And, because, honestly, the Christians in Europe treated the Jewish people like shit. Have you ever... The Merchant of Venice? Yeah. Give me a pound of your flesh? Yes, Nico. I'm all for that. I wouldn't do it myself, but I'll let you handle that. Yeah. But, I really think... there's 12 classical religions, and I have a list here. It's, forgive me on the first one. You can correct my pronunciation. It's Baha'i, Buddhism, Christianity, Confucianism, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, Shinto, Sikhism, Taoism, and Zoroastrianism.
I don't know what that last one is, but I know the rest of this.
It's a monotheistic religion that is basically in Persia.
Okay.
So it was Zoroaster.
Okay.
The teaching of Zoroaster. And the other point is the 4,200 other religions that are throughout the world. What makes us so arrogant? And I use the term arrogant because it is. It truly is. Or egocentric that you were born into the correct religion and all the other billions of people that ever existed, like the Greeks, the Romans, what made them wrong?
Yeah.
Or they just got conquered by somebody so that they were wrong? Like, does that make sense to you? Like, how can people live with that arrogance, in my opinion, about why are they right and everybody else is incorrect?
I'm not sure, dude. I'm really not sure. I mean, I think that's why it's important to, go outside your comfort zone, try new things, meet new people, go to school far from home, go travel, meet people of different cultures. That way you can just see things outside your box, I mean, if all you see is one thing and all you're taught is one thing, I mean, how long did we still go to church? Like, I don't go to church at all anymore now,
I don't go to church at all anymore.
Yeah.
I think the last time I was in church was maybe like a Creaster Mass.
Yeah.
Christmas or Easter Catholic. But, you bring up a very good point, and I have a couple statistics I'd like to share is, 70% of the United States and Canadians identify as Christian. However, that for the past 2 decades has been reduced by 1% every year. And 70% of that 70%, only half, so 35% of the population actually is a practicing or has gone in the past month. So agnostics and atheists have been growing at a much bigger chunk of the population.
Sure.
And I really think it comes down to the expanse of information. Everybody wants to reach out to other people, like in my social circle anyway, where they want to learn about the other. They want to incorporate the best ideas that other people have into...
To make your life easier.
Yeah, or better. Not necessarily going by an ideology. And I wholeheartedly believe that the downfall of mankind is going to be inherently tied to ideologues. People that won't compromise because their beliefs are the only thing that matters. And,
Well, I think we can make another great South Park reference, right? When Carbane went to the future, and they all just believed in different... What, science?
Yeah, science. There was the atheisms and the...
United Atheists and the whatever...
United Atheists. Yeah. So if you can eliminate the isms in society, that'd be... Get rid of racism, prejudice, all the isms, ageism, sexism, blah, 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 blah. And that's going to take time. It's going to be an opening experience because... Not everybody wants to go to church on a Sunday and listen to their lectern, just blah, 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 this is what you need to believe, don't question it.
Well, I think there's also been a really big shift in how we view people that are religious, right? You no longer have to be, remember when all those rumors were coming out about Obama being Muslim, and that was a really big deal because, people need a Christian president, right? But, there's other people that have different, forms of offices in the government, the judge, the Islamic judge that was just elected, people that are of different religions that are also getting into the state. So there's a different... It's slowly happening. It's like a shift. So you don't just need to be a Christian.
Yeah. You
can be a good person and be a Muslim, be agnostic, be this and be that. So that also comes with time. That also comes with the internet, with people being able to talk to other people and saying, hey, I met this dude on Reddit. He told me how to fix my sink, and he was a Muslim, and that was cool.
Yeah.
Or however the scenario would work out.
I think as we become a little bit more integrated as a society, this will also come as well. And, as long as we try to learn from one another, we don't make assumptions about people, and you're going to have inherent biases. But as long as you're aware of your inherent biases, you're going to make a much better decision. And,
hopefully. Yeah.
Well, hopefully. Obviously, you can take it from one extreme to the other.
Mm-hmm.
But, I fully believe that it's going to take some time. And to be honest with you, how many times can you go when we're sitting around and we go, oh man, who was that person that did that one thing back in the day? Google, boom, 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 boom. You have the entire world of information at your fingertips. At your fingertips. And I think that's why our generation, particularly millennials, are a little bit more in tune with open ideas and sharing of information because, honestly, we want more information. We're much more informed than our parents and their parents were. You don't have to go to the library and bury yourself in stacks and stacks of books to be a well-informed voter or a well-informed, decent person. What do you think?
Exactly. That comes with the shift. Like you can have your own sense of morals without having it being tied to religion at all.
Exactly.
So.
All right.
It's good talk.
Yeah, good talk. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This was the first episode of Dr. D Discussins. And, okay, Christian's got a nice question. Can you two discuss extremism amongst Christians ignored as they believe it's their right to influence laws based on religion through their right to vote? I think we touched on that a little bit in terms of ideologues and people don't want to compromise. We'll touch on that point soon, Jason. Ideologues in terms of, no compromise. I'm fully aware that, hi Marissa. Hi to me. where if you have more information, you're going to be a better informed voter. But if you subscribe to a religion, and forgive me if it's Barry Goldwater, I think it was Barry Goldwater, when he lost his election, said that the Republican Party is going to be taken over by religious ideologues, and as we can pretty much tell, and that's my personal opinion, you know, you can disagree.
When was that, back in the 60s?
In the 60s, and he said if these people take over the party, they're never going to compromise because it's their faith, and their God has decreed the fact that everybody else is fucking wrong, and that you can just go F yourselves, and we're not going to compromise on any issues.
Ted Cruz.
Rick Santorum. And Mike Huckabee. Those two guys kill me. Mike Pence, he tried to disprove evolution on the United States House of Representatives floor by saying, you know, in the 1930s they thought this, but now we think this. Well, science isn't static, and it's not like religion, like how you believe the world needs to work. Where
actually, that's funny because religion is very static.
It's static, you know. It's these principles are it, and that's all of it. Yeah, we said that, Ant. It's the opiate of the masses, but it's not static. The cornerstone principle of science is to change upon new information.
To disprove information that's been there.
Exactly, you know, and you know we have an idea of what everything is occurring, but it's better than just, oh, God made the world.
God forbid someone come out and say, you know what, maybe those fucking books in the Bible weren't supposed to be taken that literal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Why? Well, I don't know. When was the last time I looked at a Roman text or Plato and went, yeah, that's it. We never need to think about atoms ever again. That's completely it.
To Jason's point, I would say the new Pope. The new Pope's actually pretty cool. And he's dramatically changed how Catholics have gone about things. But at the same time, not all people are going to go with that.
Exactly. You know? And my thing is, look at the Western world compared to Africa and to the Philippines. Look at the Philippines right now. They're actually persecuting the LGBT community there because they're staunch Catholics and they're so embedded. So the Pope can only move his flock so much at a time, and incremental change. And I believe that he's trying to do that slowly but surely, based upon, you know, his ideals, you know, Western ideals, and trying to pull the rest of the world with it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's right or it's wrong or if it's the best strategy or whatever. Yeah. But I think as we progress more into the 22nd, you know, the 2200s, you know, the 2100s, you know, so on and forth, that it's going to be, I think it's going to grow, and I really think people will be more open, and we'll be more globalized, and we share more information, and we share...
Either that or they'll fall behind, right?
Yep, exactly. So I think it can go one of two ways. You know, we can still diversify, we can still share information, we can still really, you know, try our best to better ourselves and to try to get over what's called the human experience, you know. I really think that we're all in this fucking goddamn shit called life together, where why not try to make the human experience better rather than trying to demonize people? Yep. You know, and that's
what it should be about.
It really should.
Yeah.
That's why I'm into research. You know, I want to try to make the human experience a lot better. But
word. That was good, Dave.
All right. Good job. We're gonna post the sources up real soon. Nate will be on that real quick. You guys can check it out. Please, if you want to, I'm going to save this video to my Facebook page. So if you want to come back and watch bits and pieces later, feel free. I will be looking at the comments tomorrow throughout the day, and you know, I'll try to respond as much as possible.
Yeah, and give us any feedback if you have any. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, please do.
We're going to probably play around with the format. We might do this. We might do some Google Hangout stuff. We're just going to kind of play it by ear, you know?
Yep. Look for us next weekend for episode 2. We will put up a post about what the topics will be further into the week. And thanks, guys, for tuning in. We will see you next week.
Take care.